I'm Kelly Foss, and this is lesson 2 of 4 for my online workshop series with Strathmore, drawing what you see and what you don't. Today we're going to be drawing a statue. Drawing people from life can really improve your skills as an artist, but people move and that makes it challenging. So find a statue, and if you can find a statue indoors with fixed lighting that won't change, all the better. So what I did was go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I found this beautiful marble bust by Rodin called Madame X. This is not the same Madame X as John Singer Sargent's famous painting. This Madame X was a countess who was not happy with Rodin's depiction of her. I drew her there on the spot, and I enjoyed it so much I'm going to draw her again with you here in the studio. What I'll be using is my Strathmore toned tan 8.5 by 5.5 drawing pad. This is such a perfect size to take into museums or wherever. I use this little shot glass for my pencil shavings and of course a sharpener. I'm going to be using 2 of the different Lyra erasers, the white one and the kneaded one. Mostly we're going to be using the Lyra Art and Design 6B graphite pencil. Then the Lyra Rembrandt Extra Dark Carbon 2B. Going somewhere like a museum on the spot, it's easier to have a pencil like this white pastel pencil. But since I'm in the studio here, I'm going to use this hard pastel by Lyra. I of course love my Princeton Hake Brush to wipe away eraser peels, and then a touch of tissue. Well, let's get going.
Using a sharp 6B, I'm beginning the block-in process. Using just straight lines, looking for that overall outside shape. You might have noticed that I'm holding my pencil in a side hold, also known as a cigar hold, which allows me to have more of the broad side of the graphite hit the paper. It's more sketchy, it's easier to be light, rather than a normal writing hold, where the point of the pencil is a little too exacting during this part of our process. It might help you to squint at the subject to see the overall shape that we're trying to achieve right now. We're thinking of the head and the neck and the shoulders as one giant mass. Upon first glance, we might just notice her softness, but upon further notice, you will see so many straight lines on her outside shape as well as shapes within the portrait. Our Madame X is lit from the upper left, so there's this beautiful diagonal shadow line that's being cast on her a few times in the portrait. I sometimes take my pencil and look at the image and pull that line back over to my drawing as a way of double checking myself. I see on the outside shapes where the head meets up to the neck is about the same level where the shadow of the chin begins. The sides of the neck flow right up to the face, so let's put that in there. And let's cut away the hair a little bit. One general line for the bottom of the fringe, or the bangs, whichever you call it. A little height above it is a line for the shadow that is on the hair. Point to point with the earlobes, we find the bottom lips shadow, and a little height below that is the chin's shadow. So it's spacing out well. I'm going to be a little more specific with my outside shape, as well as finding some of the inside shapes. Like this shadow pocket here, very distinct shape above the ear, and the shape that's on the cheekbone down the jaw. And how about that nice cast shadow from the nose? And we find the bottom of the nose at that cheekbone. I think of the facial features as rungs on a ladder, but these rungs are spaced out differently. So I'm doing height comparisons with all of them. When drawing a portrait, it's really tempting to get caught up on the facial features. So it's important to stay away from the details and holistically develop the drawing. From this kind of centralized nub on her head, I see how her bangs slide off. Nice little angle there. I'm still maintaining her blockiness, especially right here. If you do a little work on one side, you want to do a little work on the other. Since we've established the bottom of the hair, I can put in a little bit of the brow, seeing that distance. There's this beautiful angle from this little nub there down to the shadow of the hair. The shadow shape is sort of a plump W. It can really help to detach yourself from the subject and think about simple shapes and keep moving around to develop the whole piece at the same pace. Not only am I looking for obvious line alignment like this face to neck, but less obvious ones like this, which can help inform me if I've put the shoulder too high. I'm checking the shoulder to hair on the other side and adding a transition tilt on both sides. So the neck is looking good. The whole piece is feeling good for us to go forward. This well-lit marble bust has a real softness to her features, but the more distinct moments are the shadow shapes. So let's really make sure that we get those investigated. If you try to find a statue to draw near you, I'll tell you it's easier to draw a marble, cement, plaster type statue, something that is lighter if you are drawing on white or tan paper. Because if your subject is light and your paper is light, most of your work is already done. And you'll see that as we go farther on this piece here. Right now I'm adding a little more context within the shadow, as well as making sure that we have the features set in place. Create these fun little pockets of shadow in the hair on this side, as well as this fun little ear shape peeking out there. Right now, I'm kind of cleaning up my drawing. You'll see I'm double checking my lines, as well as doing some mass comparisons, like from nose to chin is a similar distance from chin to clavicle heads. Just finding that anatomy point is helpful on a portrait. And especially this one, because the clavicle heads, also known as the neck pit, is where we'll see some real shine on this statue. Now is the time to check and double check our findings. As well as clean up the drawing, adding more context to things that maybe we kept a little vague. It's kind of funny. Sometimes you'll see my pencil move around and not make a mark. And it's because I think a lot while hovering my pencil. While the block-in was sketchy, I am now tightening up my drawing, being more descriptive. It's like creating a coloring book that has yet to be filled in. I'm still finding fun line alignments, as well as keeping the face symmetrical. Though it is not mirror image, especially since our Madam X is lit very brightly from the left. Now, this is an area that is really worth your time investigating, how the shadow is being cast on the lips and wrapping around, as well as continuing casting over the form of the chin. Now taking that same time and attention to observe and more delicately draw how that upper left light is hitting on each of the features of the face. Ready for some fun? Let's grab a piece of tissue and do a fog out, really focusing on the shadow spaces. Then grabbing our white eraser and erasing only the lightmost facing planes of the hair, the face, the shoulders, and chest, using the corners to be more precise. If you've ever, by mistake, spat on your drawing because you were trying to blow away the eraser peels, please get yourself one of these Princeton brushes. Remember to sharpen your pencils often. Back with the 6B, I'm finding the deeper shadow shapes. You'll see in the photograph that within the shadow, there are those darker moments, such as the hair shadow, the downward facing plane of the nose, the Terminator line on the chin, a little bit of the inner ear, Squinting at your subject can help you see the hierarchy of values. So I can see here in the hair shadow that I can go stronger with my value. Really make these two sections into nice graphic shapes. Crisping up the drawing a little bit, as well as finding some areas that I need to transition out of the shadow. Like softly a little bit here on the nose. Now remember, to be descriptive doesn't mean to be dark. So I can be quite exacting in my line work, but I don't have to push it really hard. Sometimes the most subtle moments are the best received. These values are really helping us to reveal the form's dimension. Let's add a little more darkness under the head here, right on the neck. Kind of have it transition. It's not like one solid block of darkness. Let's transition out of this hair a little bit. And then on the side of the cheeks, it's kind of a soft shadow. Okay, I'm just going to touch a little bit in the shadow with the tissue and do one final cleanup of the face, erasing only the lightmost facing planes, leaving that nice soft graphite shadow to light transition value. With a pinch of kneaded eraser, I'm just going to tap at little areas that I have a little bit too dark. Nothing big. Switching now to our Lyra Carbon Extra Dark 2B pencil. I'm first going to outline Our Lady. And you'll see I'm still kind of using straight lines. It gives a very naturalistic look to it. And wow, what a punch of black. I love it. It makes our drawing of our bright marble woman look like a beautifully compressed value drawing, which she is. Now with our wild black pencil, I am doing what is called hatching, which is simply parallel lines. I'm not being too neat about it. I'm just having them radiate out from our subject. Now this is all about personal taste. Maybe you'd be fine with just an outline. Maybe you want to make this really neatly black background, kind of like the photograph. It's up to you. All I know is what's next. It's our choice of white pastels. Do you want to hold it in your hand or have it in pencil form? Like I said, if you're going to draw out in public, it's easier to have it as a pencil. But since I'm in the studio, I'm going with this one. Be really selective and slow in placing out the white on your page. To remember that less is indeed more, that the paper is part of the value scale and not to touch into the graphite or carbon with the white. I start with expressing the highlights first. Observe how the left side of her face is receiving more light than the right side. So other than that little bit of highlight on the cheekbone on the right, I'm not going to be touching that much. On her chest, you'll see how the clavicle heads are really the area that's shining the most. Don't add any pastel to the tower of her neck, because in reality, it's not receiving that much light. With a pinch of clean tissue, I'm going to very delicately smush a little bit of the harshness of my white lines down. Right there. I got a little bit of the smudging of the darkness. Anyways, delicately build up your white. My personal preference for a nice marble bust like this is to have a scratchy background, but then make the skin appear smooth like the sculpture. but I will keep some marks more distinct, like the shine on the tip of her nose. I want to add a little bit more light down here onto the chest. Okay, I'm gonna sign her, which usually means that I'm done. But on second thought, I think I'm going to add a little bit more carbon to the background just to emphasize a little more powerful darkness behind this white statue.
Okay, so how did you do? For about a month, as my online workshop is posted, I'm going to be active in the forum. So if you want to chat, post questions, post your photos, I would love to see it. I'm so happy to be doing this workshop with Strathmore. I hope this lesson inspires you to go out and find a statue in your area to draw. And I hope that you come back for my next lesson about drawing with imagination. I'll see you then.